15 love.
The decision, of course, to skip the Olympic Games this year, did Ben. Which, on the face of it, when you look at the last month, seems to have been a profitable one.
No call. Electronic line calling in effect here. Let's see, anything that is within a certain range will be replayed for the fans and players to see, but no challenges. Everything's automated. I think that was an automatic decision for Ben Shelton to bypass the Olympic Games. I think it was one that he probably had to seriously ponder. He certainly will expect and hope to be a part of the team in Los Angeles when that's played on hard courts in the United States in 4 years' time.
Yeah.
So he'll hope to get at least one more, if not a few more chances to play, and perhaps going back onto the clay as his summer hard court season was opening in the United States wasn't right for him. But you're right, he had a pretty successful summer building towards this U.S. Open semifinal defense.
What was the level like in Cincy? You were there, Jim. You obviously got to see him play some good ball there in terms of the standard that he produced that week.
I think he's been solid, right? He was a semifinalist in Washington, D.C., so he built some momentum there. And I really thought he played an excellent level against Sasha Zverev, who was, as you know, he's just so difficult to deal with in any conditions. But on those courts, which were icy fast, to handle either of those players' serves was a challenge. And it was a very, very tight match, one in the 3 tight sets by Zverev. But Shelton was right there with the guy who has been at the business end of these major championships just repeatedly. That was a good sign, I thought, for Shelton.
Dominic Thiem to serve.
The team stayed away from the hard courts this year, stayed away from competing a fair bit in honesty, but hasn't actually played on the hard since Australia back in January. He'll be hanging his rackets up in a couple of months from now. The USTA Bank Open, the 500 there. Of course, he's former champion of that event. It's going to be an emotional week for him. I'm sure a fair bit of fanfare around him and everything that he's achieved.
Last event he played was back in Austria as well, Kitzbühel tournament. He reached the finals in last year. Wasn't able to get past his opening round, but already getting some love from the home team there, so to speak. I hate when I make that pun unintentionally. I like to stick it with purpose. That was a wasted opportunity.
It was.
Yeah. Good start here in the game, but team's ranking, not that it's going to matter much any longer. It's plummeted down to 210 with losing those points from the finals in Kitzbühel. Right now, it's just about celebrating these moments of getting another chance to see this U.S. Open champion in action.
How did he evolve, Jim, as a player? I mean, Nicolas Massu obviously was a guy who had seemed to have a pretty big influence, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not saying that he was the catalyst, but when he came along, there seemed to be an uptick in his tennis. What do you think evolved? And there he is, on the back right there.
It was so great to see Nicolas Massu, gold medalist in his playing days from Chile, who was a gold medal level coach for Dominic Thiem. He really did bring a real strong sense of positivity. As much as anything, it was a different energy in the box. His team opens with the hole to serve. His longtime coach, Gunter Bresnik, who spent a lot of time with Thomas Muster, he was fantastic for Domi, but it ended badly. They had some friction at the end, and it was litigious as well, never comfortable. And I think Domi just needed a sense of optimism and something new. And boy, Nicolas Massu, in that player's box, he was about as animated as you would see of a coach, right? Just positivity flowing onto the court for his player.
Yeah, it was when you get success early, wasn't it? Because they won Indian Wells, didn't they? I think about a month, as you say, 2 or 3 weeks into the partnership, suddenly he was winning at Masters 1000 level. That'll provide a bit of glue, won't it, for a partnership?
Yeah, look, Dominic Thiem has that work ethic that every coach would want their player to have. Dominic Thiem never shied away from the physicality required to play his standard of tennis.
30 love.
You know, as fit as he could be and as fit as you can be on a tennis court. Huge power on the forehand and backhand side. I think Massu helped him with his return of serve. That return right there, not a great example of a blocked return, but Dominic Thiem, he has big swings on the ground stroke, and those are difficult to handle serves of this nature. So he started being able to block forehands and backhand returns in play, a little bit like Stan Wawrinka under Magnus Norman's watch, and then all of a sudden the power is able to be exploited in rallies because you're in more of them.
Shelton.
So, decent start from last year's semi-finalist. One of the picks, potentially, of the first rounders. I guess not necessarily from a competitive standpoint. I don't think too many are hanging their hat on Dominic Thiem winning this match, but obviously from an intrigue perspective, there's a little bit more to this one than some. What's the word on the street on the court speed, Jim?
Cincinnati was as quick a court as I think the players have experienced in quite some time. Some say Shanghai can be that speedy, but the balls were getting smaller rather than bigger. Normally when the balls are on hard court, get into play by the end of their lifespan, they're significantly bigger. So everything was getting faster en route to the new balls, which is very foreign to the players. The word was right when players like Medvedev got here and started hitting on Ash Stadium, the balls were fluffing up immediately, and they loved that by comparison. So I think this is still a quick court, but a little bit more within the boundaries of what the players are accustomed to seeing. So it's going to favor certainly players that can move the ball around. You know, someone like Ben Shelton's going to get plenty of value with his serve, and if the team can rip groundies. It puts a premium on the players who can catch up to those shots defensively, right? All-around skills are going to be required here. Someone like, let's say, like a Taylor Fritz, if he's playing someone who can't overpower him and he's in the center of the court, he's going to be tough to beat. But if you can get Taylor into the corners and moving and having to play defense, it's going to be a hard court for Taylor to D up on.
Didn't react quickly enough to the first volley, did he? Ended up being a defensive one, and he paid a heavy price for it.
30-all.
This is where that agility for Shelton's really important. Second life in a point like that, 30-all. How challenging is it for these players to receive serve if you're in Ben Shelton's shoes here, given the shadow at this hour now?
It certainly looks it, doesn't it? You've been down there for many years, Jim, in terms of the challenge you face in that regard. Just thinking actually about the differences on this court between the day and the night, Jim. How stark is that as well? We talk about court speed, but of course a lot depends on the time of day, right? I would imagine as well. Is that a factor as well?
Temperature matters, right?
Yeah.
Temperature definitely matters. One thing that has happened once they put a roof on Arthur's head here. It's just no longer as breezy as Thiem keeps pace, levels things at 2. This used to be a very blustery court where the wind would swirl down from the top of the bowl, and it would really be gusty and moving the ball in lots of different ways. And then once they put the hat on Arthur's head, it's really taken a lot of the wind out of play, and it's made it a much more stagnant court, which also has had the effect of making it hotter for the players. It seems like the humidity also just sticks around inside of there.
Well,
and the shadows are certainly interesting. Of course, you don't have to deal with those at night.
Yeah.
You know what you do have to deal with at night, though? Heineken-raised fans.
Yeah. There's a little bit of amber fortification involved there, isn't there?
And an enthusiastic bunch, New York City nighttime crowds.
Yeah. People often say to me, "What's the US Open, Nick?" And I say, "You know what? Have you been to Wimbledon?" And they're like, "Yeah." I say, "It's the antithesis of Wimbledon." Okay, that's all you need to know. Which is exactly what it is.
Yeah, much like Heineken, it's an acquired taste, the US Open.
Yep. And there's that serve you were alluding to in the changer.
And how fast was that? 90 miles an hour? When he can hit it in the 140s if he chooses to.
Shelton.
That's a variance, isn't he? That's coming in handy so far.
Shelton leads by 3 games to 2.
Dominated by the server thus far, 3-2.
Time.
So Dominic Thiem holding his own in these early stages. Is he coming in a lot in Cincy as well?
Coming in quite a bit. Serving and volleying quite a bit, too. He's really kind of developing this role as a disruptor, Shelton. We know he loves the combat. We know he's up for the tussle. But now he's starting to throw in lots of different looks and feels for the players to deal with. 5 out of 6 at the net already. Mixing and matching the serve speeds, which you've been all over. And then using that forehand as a weapon when he gets a chance. And that too, mixing his return to serve positions. He's so raw, right? This guy is probably still another year or 2 away from really coming close to being a completed tennis player and have a lot more experiences. And he's not quite as raw as that young man's tennis, as I would imagine. But there's, I mean, the athletic upside is obvious. The leftiness is a huge advantage.
Nice ranked southpaw in the game. There's Ben, just above Hugo Humbert. Not too far away either. He's in the top 20.
You know, Dominic Thiem didn't come out of the blocks as someone who looked like he was going to necessarily be a red light player, someone who excels when the cameras are on him. Shelton has sort of had that innately. Thiem had to work his way into it. He's a little bit shyer by nature than Shelton, who was most clearly an extrovert. This guy shot out of a cannon in the Australian Open in 2023.
Yeah, his ascent was a sharp one, wasn't it? And by his own admission, last year was a lot of learning, right? New events, new tournaments, new balls every week, new facilities. Wasn't always conducive to allow him to play his best tennis.
Yep, he's toggling his team too. There's his dad and mom. Brian and Lisa. His dad was the coach of the University of Florida Gators tennis team until last summer. Been asked him to help him out. He struggled to put back-to-back wins together for much of the season.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that, and if you compare the 2 seasons in terms of early defeats, have a look. So from pretty much January to here last year, he lost 11 first rounds. This year, it's only 5 first rounds. Now, of course, you've got to look at who he's playing, and the ranking's a bit higher, so he's probably getting slightly kinder draws, but telling somewhat, perhaps, that he's a bit more comfortable.
Oh, he's definitely more consistent. Manages his game much better than last year. It's always the same with a young player. How do they make their upside's their upside, right? And that upside will continue to get better as they get better. But it's the downside protection that gets better that really helps them. On their down days, are they not as bad, right? How do you make your bad days decent?
Yeah.
answer to that is shot selection, by and large, right? Players that hurt themselves with unforced errors, which Ben certainly did plenty last year. You start to mitigate that, make better choices, and all of a sudden your bad days become okay. And when you got to serve like this guy, if your bad days are decent, you're top 20, and that's what's happened this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And there it is.
Oh.
It's an impressive angle to watch it from as well.
New ball splits.
Bringing some early heat and maintaining his lead on serve here.
Leads by 4 games to 3
in this opening set.
Time.
So some new balls. Team playing catch up here. It's some impressive defense. That volley about as tough as it could possibly be.
All.
That's a gift from Ben Shelton to Dominic Thiem. Love 15, serving in rally. Rally backhand misses. Bit of a let off there. Those are the mistakes that you're hoping that this time next year, if you're a Ben Shelton fan, he will have eliminated most of. It's okay to miss when you're trying to hurt someone, not when you're just rallying.
Yeah, I looked at his return games one numbers, and we look at a lot of numbers every course of the season, and there's a fair few that at times are misleading, but he's only broken 15% of the time in his career so far, whichever way you look at that, needs improvement, right?
Yeah, no, his second serve returns, he's making more of. He's winning a slightly higher percentage of second serve points won. That's where you can really make progress, right? People serve well on first serve. It's tough to make a ton of progress there, but second serves, that's where the rubber meets the road. This is where you're basically just starting the point and going to work. And that return's just not good enough, is it? Inside the service line. That needs to be between the service line and the baseline. Every pro knows that. I think every club player at home knows that. It's just that it gets dealt with at a different level here, obviously. Thiem's forehand makes quick work of that. So 2 points that Dominic Thiem has won have basically been handed to him in this game. This is another chance for Shelton to put some pressure on Thiem.
Not up.
Full credit to Dominic there. That was excellent aggression from the Austrian to take
14,
over
13.
after. That wasn't a terrible return of serve, was it?
This backhand was impressive, right? And then through the court.
Game, Thiem.
Hasn't made an abundance of first serves, but some crucial points he's been able to find.
4 games all, first set.
Tirelessly to get the wrist where it needed to be. Jess Green actually joined the team pretty soon after to help with the recovery, and just not quite able to recapture what he had before. I think he'd be the first to admit, Dominic, that yes, the wrist was difficult, but it was also the mind in terms of getting him to a place where perhaps he was prior to the injury. It was challenging, wasn't it?
Really challenging.
15.
To create the belief that your wrist isn't going to break when you've never had to think about it up until it failed. Rebuilding that trust, I think, very, very difficult. Could be love 30 there. Dominic hits that down the line. That's his point. Shelton broke to cover cross court here off a pretty poor drop shot.
Yeah, he was here, wasn't he?
Thiem making a nice adjustment in this game after having only won 1 point against Shelton serve up till now. Going into this service game, he's moved very deep for the return of serve just to try and change the view, try and get a few more returns in play. Not going to have much joy in this game, but at least he's trying to 14. That's what you want to see for Thiem, and we were watching him try to hit his way out of his sort of crisis of confidence when he played Adrian Manarino at the 2023 Indian Wells Championship. Lost in a third set tiebreaker, Nick. And you can see the lack of faith and trust in his forehand at the critical moments. I just haven't seen that come back, and I wish for him that he'll find it today. Love to see that.
Plenty of time ahead. 5-4 opening set.
Time.
held his own so far. He's the champion here 4 years ago. First one of those. Brother Moritz, of course, in the middle there. Pretty big age gap between the two, 6 years. It's a good ball. Trying to play a little bit himself.
Oh.
It's shifting that return position, just stepping up on that one, trying to find the formula here. What is going to work best for Ben long term, do you think, Jim, off that second serve return position? Is deeper going to be better to get him in the point, or is he? What do you think long term is the best strategy for him in terms of position?
I think overall his instincts are going to be to stand in and be aggressive, right? I think that's probably what's going to end up being more comfortable for him. But I don't think you can just throw a blanket across it and say this is going to be my thing every day. I think you have to respect the opponents. You know that's a different serve coming, depending on who's throwing the pitches. It's a matter of practice, right? And it's a matter of understanding what type of return works from where you are on the court. If you're standing deep, very few players can get away with a flat return. Medvedev, the obvious exception to being able to pinpoint it and still get back into position. But you have to hit that shot if you're deep to return it, typically with a little bit more spin on the ball, buys you time to then move back into position because you're playing obviously a combination. Trying to win it with the return. So, look, I think he could use the crush and rush. I think he's a guy with his backhand who, like Francis Tiafoe or Tommy Paul, could take the ball early and go to net behind it at times.
That'll work.
What do you think?
Juice.
I think, as you say, I think for him, if he's starting from a deeper position, I'm not necessarily sure that's conducive to the way he wants to play the point personally, but I'm sure he'll find a way.
Does he have a little bit of Pat Rafter in his game where he just starts blocking a lot more returns if he's not getting enough in play on certain days?
Yeah.
You got to find ways around problems. Okay.
He doubted himself off that shot, didn't it? And at a crucial juncture here. Shelton's got a set point. He's done well. First serve was
Juice.
a potent one. The follow-up wasn't too bad either. He hasn't played a lot of matches as either team. in these situations, you're going to find out a fair bit about just how tough he is, much tougher he is right now, because there's been a lot of early defeats this season.
Advantage, Shelton.
Shelton deep for this second serve, looking for a forehand. And what a second serve that was, right in the corner. Surprising Shelton. He was moving back towards the center of the court, expecting a body serve. Some bravery from Dominic Thiem gets its reward.
For service.
At some point, because Thiem couldn't have hit the half volley any better, I don't think. Still got nothing to show for it.
Shelton.
Third opportunity for the American.
Shelton going even deeper this time to make sure he buys time to get the forehand or backhand. There he goes.
That's tough. Perhaps the longest rally of the set. Brings the points to defend, obviously, over the next few weeks. But knocking on the door of the world's top 10 right now, 13 this week. He did well in Asia, didn't he, in the fall last year? So got a few coming off, unless he can play some good ball over the next few months. But
15 all.
this is part and parcel of life. Greater ambitions, you feel, them over the next couple of months. Presumably, from what you've said, you see him as a top 10 player, Jim, imminently. Next season,
I'm not sure if it's imminent, but I think it's certainly where he'll be at some stage, right? Still got to iron out a few things in the game. Keep working on the fitness, make sure everything's tucked in.
Yeah, he's 300 points off the top 10 right now. I'm looking at the numbers. Dimana currently occupies that spot. So he's not a million miles away.
No, he's not by any stretch. But with the points in the semifinals here, plus the 500 points in Tokyo coming up fairly soon, he'll need to maintain a high level to maintain his current ranking, let alone go higher. But it's certainly in his capabilities. Draw gods have not been kind to Ben Shelton in this tournament, however, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, it was a stinger. There's a few Americans in the way up. There's a Tiafoe potentially in the third round.
Yeah, which was the quarterfinal here last year.
Yep.
And should they meet, the winner of that one likely would meet the current gold medalist, 24-time major winner Novak Djokovic, looming in the bottom. So Shelton could get a rematch with Novak as he saves the first break point of the match.
Juice.
For Dominic Thiem with a good serve and volley attempt. That semifinal last year would take place in the 4th round this year, should they have a rematch with Shelton and Novak. Long way to go. Lots of things between now and then.
Advantage, Shelton.
Good response to the first challenge on his serve from Shelton, who only lost a couple of points against his serve in the opening set. And he lost 3 in the opening set. He's lost 3 in this already in the opening service game. So good improvement from Thiem.
Game, Shelton.
Nasty. So much movement on the serve, as Jim has touched on.
Second set.
That's interesting, isn't it? When you look, we get so much data, and the TDI stuff that we get these days with the innovations, fascinating because they give us a lot of data. And accuracy, one of the things that stands out is Ben's accuracy isn't always that great. It certainly hasn't been to this point in his career, but obviously the movement that he has and the variety is compensating for that. And it's obviously been a big factor as to why the serve has been so tough to deal with.
And his leftiness. You know, if you have the type of speed available that Shelton has and Sasha Zverev has, you don't have to have incredible accuracy. That's one of the big features of Sasha Zverev's service improvement over the last couple of years. He's lowered the ball toss. That's given him more control. He's also started to steer his first serve away from the lines in an effort to make more first serves. That for Zverev, that was really important. Primarily because his second serve was and still can be at times a trouble spot for him. We'll start to hear more and more from Coach Shelton here as this match wears on. But for Ben, with his leftiness, all the different spins and speeds, I think you'll see slight improvements to his serve in how he serves and the variety and how much he chooses to bring to 140. But the biggest room for improvement you underlined in set 1, breaking serve. How do you do that 2% more than you're doing right now? How do you climb from 15 to 17%? That gets you in the top 10.
There have been many major winners over the years that have been in that. I actually looked at Roddick's numbers. Not that Roddick was a terrible returner, but it's all relative, right? Roddick was about 20% breaks in his career. If you look at players that have won majors with that lower percentage of breaks, and it's all relative, but
30,
he obviously was a guy that got over the line.
Something I was talking to Craig Boyton, Hubie Hurkacz's coach, in January this year, the beginning of the year, United Cup, everyone's fresh and ready and anxious and eager. I said, what are your goals this year for Hubie? He said, well, he holds serve nicely. Understatement. His team looks like he's going to hold here to level at 1 apiece. Hurkacz is one of the game's best at holding serves. He said, my goal is to we're going to try and break serve 1% more this year. Said if we can do that, that might be enough for us to win something really important.
Yeah.
Hurkacz.
Hurkacz break serve at very low rates, you know, among the lowest when you look on your individual match stats, as Nick Lester is covertly doing on his computer right now in Arthur Ashe Stadium because he's a professional.
Well, occasionally. Yeah, in fact, he's on a couple of ticks up on Shelton. Both around the 15% mark. I'll catch at 16.5. Shelton just below 15.
So they don't have to break serve with the best of them, right? They don't need to be at the top of that leaderboard because they're already there holding serve. They just need to be middle of the pack, and that might just be enough.
Yep. And for those that are interested, De Minaur currently leads the tour this year in return games won, 34%. A massive surprise that he's somewhere near the top.
Advantage, Shelton.
Found a way to make a decent return, and team's on a little bit of a slippery slope here.
Shelton leads by 2 games to love, second set.
4 games in a row, and have gone against him.
Yeah. You hear his dad saying he wants to see one serve and volley this game, and that's been a bit of a mantra this summer from Brian Shelton, Coach Shelton. Want to see at least one serve and volley per game from Ben. You like that idea?
I think so. I mean, I'm just actually sitting here thinking, Jim, that aside from that point, if there's one player that's probably benefited from the rule of on-court coaching, it's this duo, right? I mean, it's been going on for years anyway, but the sort of communication that they have is it's fairly consistent, isn't it? There's not a lot of downtime in terms of the sort of. There's a lot of players, Alcaraz and Ferreira are pretty constant out there as well, but you've got to think that Ben's benefited a fair bit from having that rule in place.
There's no question he's benefited. And there's also no question that because of his experience playing college tennis for his father, where coaching has always been allowed. His dad didn't have to learn to coach during matches like a lot of the professional coaches have had to do in the past year or so. How to say it, how quickly to say it, concisely. Coaches have been patrolling the sidelines and talking to their players between points for as long as I can remember. And his dad was a women's tennis coach at Georgia Tech for years after he retired from the tour, and a men's tennis coach at University of Florida. Extremely comfortable giving information in bite-sized packets.
Yep. And as we know, college tennis can be a little bit of a circus at times, to put it mildly.
You need some sort of cleaning device to get the filth off of that serve. Some kind of bleach, something. That was an awesome kick serve up the middle. Yeah, I would say Shelton, center, Alcaraz with the coaching. Those teams getting a lot of bang for their buck.
Absolutely. going well here.
Shelton
Not even
leads
an hour
by
on the
3 games
clock.
to love.
And
Second
he's
set.
dominating
By 1 set
right
to
now.
love.
And our arrested decline here is the Austrian.
Let's for service.
Dominic Thiem at his apex was a real problem
15.
for the masters of the game. Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, he caused them all kinds of trouble. I was reading a nice piece in The Athletic about Dominic the other day, and this was an impressive statistic. Played the big three 35 times, 16 wins.
Well, there's not many that can claim that, are there?
5 and 2 against Federer? Question mark?
30
It's
love.
amazing, isn't it? I remember to beat Rafa in Australia. I think you were there that year, Jim.
Sure.
Quarters, wasn't it?
Sure was.
19, 20 possibly. Heck of a match that
was 20, I think, en route to his final there.
Yeah.
I think the finals there where Novak beat him, and that would be the year where he would get the deal done here in Flushing Meadows. Like Wawrinka, the power on the forehand and the backhand could cause major, major problems for anybody at its best.
Yeah, we need a little league table though, don't we, of wins against the
40
top
love.
3. I can't imagine there's anybody else. Murray, obviously, Murray, I have to check Andy's numbers, but and he's got to have more than 16, I would have thought, against the top 3. We'd have to look at that, but he's got to be up there.
Game. Team.
Very stabilizing hold.
Shelton leads by 3 games to 1. Second set.
Now, Dominic Thiem, Juan Martín Del Potro, I look at players that have been real forces at their best, who have had misfortune when it comes to injuries that have really curtailed their careers.
Yeah, Robin Soderling, another man who jumps to my mind as well.
Totally. Great call.
$15 love.
I wasn't afraid,
His
was
was
it?
mono. Right?
Yeah.
Never recovered from it.
No. Got his own ball now. Branded his own tennis balls, Robin. Oh, it's quite a good one, from what I hear. Hasn't really been around the sport too much, has he? Not in the sort of mold of a coach or anything else. Let him off. There's a fair bit going on.
Needed some Monty Python music to that point at the end, didn't it?
We did, didn't we? Went down a route no one thought we were going. +1 forehand, obviously a big number for him, isn't it, as well? And have those numbers here to hand, but when he can employ that forehand off the serve, it's generally going to be conducive to him controlling proceedings.
Game. Shelton.
Nice bit of variety, and he's certainly controlling this match.
Shelton leads by 4 games to 1. Second set.
Shelton
By
number
1
7
set to
forward.
love.
So the American controlling things out here. The set and a break. There's a point right from the mold that you were just alluding to. When he was at his best, he could produce that consistently.
Good flexibility here. You see Shelton's been working on that. He nearly does a full split here.
30 love.
So important for these players, not just court coverage wise, but also just helping them with that elasticity. I think my instinct is that, and all the physios will tell you this, that it helps prevent injuries when you're that flexible. You just have more room. Could never relate to that, Nick.
Sure many can relate to that either. He's going to smoke the forehand there. I'll tell you what, there, Jim, if you were inflexible, I'll take inflexible all day long if you'd like to swap CVs.
It's the game's got a little faster. It's a bit more important these days, but that forehand was nuked. 10th winner off of that side for Shelton. Overplay there, and probably in reaction to it from Thiem.
One of the nuances of this sport is in movement-wise, it's often perhaps not talked about enough. It's how quickly you decelerate, isn't it, Jim, out of the corners? Acceleration is one thing. You can build speed, but your ability to decelerate out of the corners and then recover is a significant part of how well you defend.
Yeah. Beautifully done there. Yeah, it's the little shuttle drill, right, where you're the testing. Did you see that last year at the Next Gen when they did the testing on the players to showcase their strength and their agility? And the agility drill, where they kind of start in the center of the line there at the service line, come touch the sideline, go back, and go touch the other line, and they time them. That really is the key movement for tennis. That's the one you've got to have. That's exactly what you're talking about. And that's where being as light as possible while being strong is so beneficial, because you can change directions much more effectively. Imagine putting on a 5-pound vest. Whether it's muscle or whether it's fat, 5 pounds when you're in the corners changing directions is 5 pounds that you don't use, is 5 pounds you don't need.
Absolutely.
It's 5 pounds that slows you down. That's why being as efficient as possible in your diet and everything matters more than ever in a game that's ruthlessly speedy these days. Eras past you could have gotten by without being perfect. Tough to be the top anymore otherwise.
Advantage.
There's no room for an average athlete, is there?
No.
It doesn't happen.
Look, you can get there with superior ball striking. You can be near the top. But to be at the top, I don't know. Not sure anymore. This is a top flight chance here for Shelton to take firm control of this match. It's set 2.
Juice.
Incidentally, Artur Fils was the athlete that tested the best out of the Next Gen last year. There's another testing moment for Thiem here, but
Advantage.
I'm glad the ATP's doing that. I've sort of wondered aloud on the air for years about tennis having a combine, which is what the NFL does for their incoming athletes coming out of college, test them athletically. Just so you know, right, who is our best raw athlete? Have a baseline for that.
He's done well. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I feel like as well these days, and again, just talking to various people within the sport, that the days are longer. And what I mean by that is someone like Ben might be in it. He's playing at 12 today. He might be in at 8. He's doing an hour and a half to start with. He's probably doing an hour and a half after the match, maybe more. When did that evolve? And that in terms of... Do you know what I mean? That locking after the body. I'm not saying you guys didn't, but
it's moved in lockstep with prize money increases, which have increased the amount of professionals that are around these players in different elements. The amount of personal physios, the amount of strength and conditioning coaches that are on the road that are
Advantage.
making sure that they're useful.
yeah.
Smart, Benny. Pop.
And then, of course, the sports science is ever evolving, and the players are making sure that they're doing all the pre-warm-ups to prevent injury, right? Which is probably why we're seeing players play more successfully into their 30s
Yep.
than prior generations.
I was talking to some guys at the All-England Club a couple of weeks ago about the championships. And we were talking about the differences over the years. And he said, well, listen, we're just ordering ice baths right now at a rate of knots. We need more space because these guys need it for recovery. It's whether the science behind it, and there is different science behind the ice bath, isn't there? Let's be honest. But right now it's popular, and they need more. Just at Wimbledon alone, they were looking for more space to put more in because the demand was higher for players to recover.
Good maneuvering from the Austrian to put himself into position to hold here and to stay within a break. And yeah, a lot of these tournaments are having to maneuver for more space for the players. They're increasing entourages and the recovery zones.
Yep.
You're right about that.
Game. Team.
Apology because
You balls, please.
the net, but going for the pace on the pass, couldn't find it.
Shelton leads by 4 games to 2. Second set.
New ball's coming. So the player's going to play Shelton, going to get a new bat, get ready to go. But listening to the officials here, the U.S. Open, give us sort of the overview yesterday leading into the championships, talking about the coming years here, that they're going to be developing more space for the increasing needs of the players in the playing group. Even a tournament with as much size as this one still needs to expand because of the demands that they're getting from their stars. And let's face it, the players are the product here. So they're going to get taken care of.
Thank you.
Cincinnati. They just had the Masters 1000, WTA 1000. That's increasing immensely between this year and next year. Again, more space for the players, more practice courts, more dining facilities.
Yeah, and it'll need to because, of course, it'll be a 12-day event. So
that's right.
Increase the draws, more players on site.
Bigger locker rooms, all of that stuff. It's a bit of an arms race.
It is.
And that's the good news is that what that means also is that the ecosystem in tennis is thriving. The demand from fans and sponsors alike is unlike any we've ever seen, which is pretty amazing. When you think about the star power that is either left the game or is on the way out.
Absolutely.
Serena Williams gone. Venus Williams still around occasionally. Roger Federer out. Nadal hopefully sticking around for a bit more, but sparingly. Murray out. Novak still here and probably going to be around for a while, but he's sort of last of the Mohicans.
Shelton.
Tennis is thriving like that Shelton forehand, though.
Absolutely, and this is someone that definitely you feel can
Shelton leads
move the
by 5
needle
games to 2
in this
second
score.
set.
That'll be
By 1 set
required.
to love.
Set and a break.
Time.
Shorter match wins this year. In fact, only beaten one top 100 player the entire year is Dominic Thiem. So we'll move in.
15 love.
Not quite sure what his schedule's going to be between now and Vienna, but all roads will culminate there.
He'll need wild cards if he wants to play in the big tournaments, that's for sure, if he is interested.
Dino.
It was an interesting time following his win at the U.S. Open for Dominic Thiem. Came back early in 2021, just months after winning in New York, and took a mental break. After the Middle East, he just didn't seem right. And he skipped Miami, and then really shockingly Monte Carlo and Barcelona, his beloved clay court tournaments. It was almost as if reaching his goal
15, 30.
sort of sucked all the life out of his tennis passion in a way. It took him time to resettle, didn't it?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And then, of course, it was too late because just a few weeks later he was on the treatment table. About his offense, but
15,
a little bit of everything. He was actually out here for about an hour earlier on today, was Ben, warming up. I watched it pretty closely. It was There's a lot of people out there with him. He was working pretty intently, different aspects of his game. Seems to have paid off nicely because he's got a couple of set points. Got to be Dominic Thiem's career in major championships
By 6 games to 2.
is running out turn to the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Talked about his game a lot. How does he manage the emotions, Jim? Because last year he was all in. This guy was embracing this environment. He was not even here, but at the end of the year, does he rein it in, or do you want to see him just be himself emotionally on court?
I don't know that he has a throttle, a governor, if you will. I think he is who he is. He's exuberant out there. He likes the combat. He likes the interaction with the crowd. I think when he plays a night match, which is likely to happen in the 3rd round, if not the 2nd round, should he reach there and have Tiafoe slated, you'll see him get pumped up, and that's who he is. That's he's true to himself. So
40 love.
This match isn't offering that type of challenge on the scoreboard and that type of atmosphere, is it?
No.
So he's responding the way he should, which is kind of matter-of-factly to a one-way situation right now. How about the serve numbers so far, Nick? I mean, these are impressive from Ben Shelton.
Yeah, and interesting as well. You look at the average first serve speed, which speaks to the point you were making, because he's at 115 miles an hour average on our numbers, which obviously, on the face of it's relatively low, but again, that variety.
That's lower than Dominic Thiem's averaging. But what about their upside? What about the fastest serves?
Yeah, 135, and I think he was about 148 here last year a couple of times, wasn't he? He was.
Yeah, he can definitely go harder than he's going right now. And Dominic Thiem has hit it 128. No shortage of power there as we see the numbers on our screen. But the most important number is Ben Shelton making Sasha Zverev type first serves in play. 77%. And that is a perfect blend of power when he needs it and trickery with the mixing of the speeds, the locations, the twist serves, his first serves, the serve and volley. It's just been difficult for Thiem to return much at all.
Yeah, that's well above the season average of 68, which actually I had a look, has increased a little bit this year.
I think that's up 4% from last year. That's pretty substantial. What's nice if you're Ben Shelton and have those options, if you come up against a player who is able to handle all your variety, you can always just lean back on your fastball and challenge them with 140 plus time and time again. But if you don't have to use it, boy, it's nice not to stress the arm out and the shoulder out.
Love.
Bit of a love 40 return from Shelton, taking the first serve early and aggressively, but a good comfortable start for Thiem in set 3 as he tries to reset after getting bulldozed in set 2. Had an early break chance in the first game of the set, did Dominic Thiem, couldn't close it, and then Shelton pulled away from him.
Game. Thiem.
All right, let's go 10,000 feet, Nick, and put you on the spot here. Give me your overall thoughts about men's field and your favorites at this year's U.S. Open, given form and fitness.
I'm not looking past Djokovic, or Djokovic as you guys would call him over here. For me, that's... I see a lot of people are speculating what the Olympic gold is going to do to his desire. I mean, personally, I struggle to see how that. For me, that's maybe I'm going to look stupid in a couple of weeks, but for me, he's my favourite right now. I can only see that liberating him even more, as if that's my opinion, Jim. But maybe I'm wrong. Fascinated to see how Yannick copes with everything, because let's be honest, that can't be easy, can it? You know, there's a lot going on there right now, and these guys are, you know, better than anyone, so good at compartmentalizing. But I feel like Alcaraz has cooled a bit this year, and despite the fact it's been an unbelievable summer, I'm just not sure. Again, my own opinion that it's going to carry on here. That's just a feeling, a gut feeling. So for me, Novak's my favourite right now. I like the Americans. They're in good form, right? Tommy Paul's had a great year. Taylor Fritz has got to look at this draw and think...
He's got a good draw, doesn't he?
I'm here, right? Taylor Fritz is looking to break that major quarterfinal duck, I think, isn't he? It's as far as he's gone, so... That's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's
satisfying.
What? I'm after opinions. I'm trying to get a feel. It's a fascinating finish to the major season, and it's a golden major season, right? So the youth brigade took the first 3 majors. Novak snatched gold. Player of the year, very much in the air, in the balance here. Hanging center year to date, more points than anybody. Alcaraz more majors than anybody. Novak's knee was not right for Wimbledon, still made the final. And then it was better in Paris for the Olympics, clearly. Nicely done there from Shelton, serving volley. So we'll put a pin in that thought, and we will dig a little deeper, get under the surface here at the U.S. Open on day 1.
2 sets to love. Time.
So Dominic Thiem playing his 37th and final major of his career. Overlooked for a wild card at Roland Garros, which some people were a little surprised by. As Jim said, a finalist on a couple of occasions. He's been very much front and centre in Paris, at the peak of his powers, but just in qualies there. He's had his moments in this match. Certainly a competitive opening set without just cracking really at a crucial moment. He's got away from him in the second. Apology from the 30-year-old. They're happy.
30-15.
Hasn't played a whole lot of tennis this year, as we referenced. Dominic Thiem. Was able to hang with Shelton for the first 8 games. Just couldn't quite cling on at that crucial stage of the first. Slipped in the second and never really recovered, but it's keeping this third set competitive for now. The sort of point, Jim, that you were talking about, that you feel maybe Ben Shelton, if he is going to continue the improvement, is going to play a bit more in his career.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Ben Shelton having a great serving day today, serving 75% first serves in play, yet to be broken, but it's about how many times he can break serve. That's what he's been successful at today in a way that Thiem has not, and winning those neutral rally points against someone as accomplished as Dominic Thiem is not easy. But that's where Shelton's making some gains this season compared to his rookie year last year. A little more patience, a little more knowledge of what he's capable of, not overplaying too early in rallies. Which is hard to do when you got that kind of offense on the other side of the net coming at you potentially. That was vintage Dominic Thiem on the backhand.
Yeah, worth remembering, this guy was a two-hander until he was about 11 years of age as well, so it was relatively late, but a change came in his youth.
It's interesting when you point that out.
Juice.
Dominic Thiem's one-handed backhand, one of the best in the game at his apex. It's a shot he's always been more comfortable catching late and going line. He's never really had that short angle cross-court backhand that someone like Richard Gasquet has kind of thrived on, the short angles. It's all about power for Thiem. And as he puts himself in peril here with that errant forehand, you think about someone who develops a two-handed backhand as a child, the left hand plays a big part.
Yeah.
And then you take it off, and it's all right hand. It probably wasn't as natural for him to start snapping it off cross court. Shelton about to snap this match wide open if he can break it here.
Game. Shelton.
And he may have done just that. In the previous game, if you weren't with us,
Shelton
we were
leads by 3
chewing the
games to
fat
1.
as we remind you to go to usopen.org if you haven't already. Do a bit of shopping if you'd like to do so. There's a variety of different t-shirts, jumpers, whatever you want to get. You can get it all here. Some nice styles as well this year.
40 different types of hats.
Yeah. Choose your color, all covered. We were just discussing earlier on the overview of the men's draw. And how do you see it? I guess the fascinating aspect is the Jannik Sinner scenario, isn't it, Jim? Because that's an unknown.
Yep. Yeah, how does Sinner deal with this adversity now? The cloud that he's been quietly playing under for months now has now been exposed for everyone to see. He's been exonerated. But lots of questions swirling amongst the playing group about how his positive tests for a steroid, which are now widely public. If you're not well read on it, please jump on the internet. You'll find plenty to chew on there.
Do you see him being able to put that to one side?
We'll see. It'll be a test of his mental capabilities to compartmentalize. Tennis-wise, coming off of the title in Cincinnati, his game looked sharp. His hip did not look particularly great. That's been a problem for him physically a little bit this year. And as we go to break here, Shelton holds. But Sinner got the toughest draw of
Shelton leads by 4 games to 1.
Of the top 4 seeds. His is the toughest. He has Tommy Paul potentially in the 4th round, the in-form American, who's rough on a quick hard court, which this most certainly is. If all things go to seeds, it will be Tommy Paul in the 4th round. Be Daniil Medvedev, the hard court specialist in the quarterfinals. That was the one you didn't want to see in your quarter if you're one of the top 4 players. Well, Sinner got him. And oh, by the way, Alcaraz in the semifinals. Now that's assuming everyone wins their way to those rounds, which is rarely the case, but the draw gods were not kind to Jannik Sinner. Alcaraz has Sebi Korda in the 4th round. Alcaraz looked mentally burned in Cincinnati, didn't he? After the Olympic silver, he looked flustered against Monfils and the conditions. So perhaps a little bit of rest and recharge will do him some good. He'll get going here pretty soon, but he's got Korda in the 4th round, Hurkacz in the quarters, and again Sinner in the semis should they all go to form. It's a reasonable draw. Djokovic, he's got a pretty good draw, right? Likely to get the winner of Shelton in Tiafoe, who would meet in the 3rd round. That would be his round of 16 match. Rublev in the quarterfinals, Zverev in the semis. And you gotta like, I know you said that you like Novak, all things considered, and I think all things considered, that's probably a good thought. Watched him practice yesterday. He looked like he was moving phenomenally well. And of course, Zverev is in a section where Taylor Fritz might be a problem for him. We'll see. Rune in that section. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen. There's look at Dominic Thiem's family, and must be bittersweet for them, but hopefully they'll get a strong sense of pride for seeing this former U.S. Open champion out here one more time on Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Yeah, I appreciate it's a very personal situation, but what does retirement look like for... You've obviously went through it, Jim, had an amazing career. You then had to hang the rackets up. Andy Murray is currently in that situation, and I know everybody will cope differently, but how do you deal with that? What are the...
Everyone's going to go through their own pathway on that. So what I wish for Dominic Thiem is peace. The worst thing for, I think, humans in general, but athletes as well, is regret. You always have things you wish you could do differently, but Dominic Thiem should sleep, and this certainly goes for Murray as well, incredibly well knowing that he was a tremendous professional. Not a tremendous professional player. He certainly was that too, but he just did it all. Every day he put his energy in the right places to try and become the best player he could be, and he found that level. 4 times a major finalist, US Open champion.
And I guess like Murray in many ways, and I'm not saying this is the case, but he's had 2 years where he's not played a whole lot as well, so it's not like it's going from all to nothing, is it? I don't know if that's going to be any kind of comfort to him or that makes that transition a bit easier, but who knows?
Yeah, it's a very personal experience, and it's not unlike what people who retire from their jobs, non-athletic jobs, will feel, which is, okay, what's next?
Game, team.
Did you miss the buzz? Did you miss the energy of being out there in these sort of arenas and that adrenaline? How did you replicate that? You didn't need to.
No, I did not miss it. I was at peace when I made the decision to call time on my career. For players, we're all watching Andy Murray now. He's on the other side of it, and he was so clear that this was not his decision, that it was his body's decision, and how frustrated that was for him. And for Dominic Thiem, to a certain extent, it's a similar scenario where he was in the prime of his career. His wrist went out on him, and he's not been able to retrieve the level that he'd earned.
30 love.
But all in, Dominic Thiem has lived an amazing life. I think we can all acknowledge that. He's got to play a game, call it a job, provide himself and his family financial security.
Yeah, $30 million in prize money alone.
And he's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Let's second service.
But it'll be his road, right? He'll travel it, and only he'll really know what it feels like. So everything's personal. And this is a young man on the other side of that road. Ben Shelton's road, still very much the early stages, just kind of getting going. Got to believe if you went down on the court right now and just called a timeout and said, you know, Ben, I'm going to give you a choice here. You can have your career with open-ended possibilities, or we will guarantee you'll have the career of Dominic Thiem. Which would you take? It'd be pretty tough not to take the Thiem route.
It's tough to disagree. A day where he has served impeccably, as Jim was saying. He's only lost 8 points in total in almost 3 sets of tennis on his own serve. He's a game away here.
By 2 sets to none. Time.
So some new balls for Dominic Thiem to try and extend his major career a little further.
Love the team.
Shelton just up in the net, getting a new racket here. Beautiful day here in New York City, right on 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Second service.
That's explosive. It is mightily impressive when he does deliver on it.
Love that.
Shelton working his forehand into a weapon, a shot that Dominic Thiem has done a lot of damage with over the course of his career. Backhand, also a mighty sword.
14 points off the forehand today from the American. It's been a clean display. The lefty. Took it on, saw some space, but sadly for him, lacking the control required. And Ben Shelton has got a match point. It's a fine start for Ben Shelton here in New York as he brings to an end the major career of Dominic Thiem.
Nice respect to the net there from Shelton to Dominic Thiem. Shelton, the semifinalist last year, starts off with a bang. Terrific level from him, wonderful serving, and wants to hear it for Dominic Thiem from the crowd. Well, Shelton gets the win, but this moment is really about this man, Dominic Thiem, and what he's meant to the sport. And there's Stacey Allister, the tournament director, on the court to congratulate him on a magnificent career at majors. 4 times a finalist, twice in Roland Garros.